Hey, what's up guys? John here. President Joe Biden and the White House are now working on a plan to give 500,000 Americans money to go buy a single family home, duplex, triplex, and fourplex all over the country. From the east coast of New York to the west coast of California, from the north and all the way to the south, everywhere in between, you will begin to see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans going out there looking to buy their first home with taxpayer revenue to go buy these properties. Now, there's a lot happening behind the scenes that investors, landlords, and everyday Americans need to pay attention to, because everything that we've once known about America is now going to change in a very, very, very big way. This started a couple years ago with stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, PPP loans, eviction moratoriums, forbearances, and all of these other protections. Now we're walking into this. I believe massive change is in front of us, and in this video I'm going to break it down for you, show you exactly what's going on. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate more people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video, schedule a free strategy session. I personally believe lenders across the country are paying very, very close attention to a lot of these policy decisions that are happening right now, realizing that a lot of risk is out there in this economy, and they're going to continue to tighten up on their lending restrictions and their standards. So they're going to continue to restrict lending. You want to position yourself to be a borrower in which banks will want to lend to. You want to have exceptional credit, and if you need help, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. You click the link below. Take a look at this. Biden wants to give 500,000 Americans money to buy homes. This is Newsweek.com. Right? So, the Biden administration said on Thursday that it was looking to help hundreds of thousands of households to realize their dream of homeownership, part of an effort to reduce housing costs, increase supply of affordable homes, and mitigate the rising expense of paying for a house for Americans. Through its backing proposal known as the Neighborhoods Homes Investment Act, it would promote homeownership for an additional 500,000 households, while increasing neighborhood revitalization investments, said the director of the White House's National Economic Council, said in a speech on Thursday when she urged Congress to act on a proposal. The act will introduce a new federal tax credit to help fund the development of renovation of 1 to 4 unit family housing in distressed urban, suburban, and rural neighborhoods, according to a draft in the bill. Well, I mean, distressed urban, suburban, and rural neighborhoods, that's basically every neighborhood in America, right? Almost everyone, even today, that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and live in a nice suburban neighborhood, nowadays that's probably, distressed. A lot of these homeowners are in a worse position financially. They may feel like they have equity in their homes, but their money's not going half as far, right? And as this economy starts to change and home values begin to soften and soften and soften, these neighborhoods will become more distressed. The legislation, introduced by Senators Ben Cardin, a Democrat from Maryland, and Todd Young, a Republican from Indiana, could help 500,000 homes and generate $125 billion in development revenue over the next decade, the lawmaker said earlier this year. The housing market is in the midst of a convulsion, fueled by Federal Reserve's effort to fight record inflation. The Fed's rising rates and at the most rampant clip since the 1980s has helped push up borrowing costs for home buyers. Mortgage rates have soared to a 2-decade high, prices have jumped, and the supply of homes has fallen. Bernard suggested that President Joe Biden will not wait for Congress. The administration, for example, said it was advocating for zoning reforms that will help unlock the construction of affordable homes. Our development and transportation is making billions of dollars in low-cost loans available for developing housing near transportation. The administration has also been trying to help first-time buyers who have been struggling to gain a foothold into homeownership. Home prices were up nearly 6 times the median potential first-time home buyer income in the third quarter, according to NerdWallet's recent analysis. Now, when you start to pay attention to this, it sounds like they are really trying to combat inequality, right? This is what it sounds like. They're trying to combat inequality. They're trying to help everyday Americans get ahead. But let's look back. Let's just take it back a couple of years. Now, 3 years ago, large corporations, Targets, Walmarts, the big box stores, they absolutely dominated. Remember, everyone was spending all of their money there. And going to small business was kind of shunned. A lot of small business owners were restricted heavily. A lot of small business owners were pushed out of business. Millions of people lost their jobs due to a lot of policy decisions. There was a lot of things happening where if people didn't meet certain requirements, they would, lose their jobs. So you started to see a lot of things unfold here. And now it seems as though they're going the other way, saying, hey, look, we need to help small business owners. We need to help everyday Americans buy their first home. Well, let's look at this for a second. So you have 46.8% of U.S. employees working for small business. So basically half of America works for small businesses. And 41% of all duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes are owned by mom and pops. It's mainly small business owners, right? So if you're looking at this situation, they're saying, hey, look, we need to help everyday Americans buy these properties. Now let's look at what they were discussing. So they're discussing a national rent control. So national rent control, what rent control is a set of rules and guidelines enacted by local governments that will tell landlords their rights as property owners, what they can do in terms of increasing rents, what they can do in terms of evictions, tells them all the protocols and all the procedures in which they have to operate inside of by this new law. Now, they were discussing the idea of bringing forward, the Biden administration, discussing a renter's bill of rights and a national rent control, which will, look at this, this will allow standardized rental leases, grace periods for late payments, a right to counsel for tenants, so tenants will get access to free legal counsel for facing eviction, sealing of eviction records. So tenants basically, if you get evicted, no big deal, it's not going to go on your record, right? So tenants have no real reason to comply inside the terms of the lease if they get a free attorney and it's not going to go on the record, right? And a federal campaign to end discrimination against affordable housing voucher. Now, you think about what this means. This title, I mean, when you read just that headline, it sounds good, right? People are like, okay, end discrimination. Okay, who's not going to be for that, right? Against affordable housing. So when insurance goes up and property taxes go up, what happens? Do landlords just eat the cost? No, they push the cost on to the consumer. Just like when anything goes up. When the cost goes up for the butcher, they're going to push that onto the consumer. When the cost goes up at the grocery store, they're going to push it on the consumer. So when they are essentially trying to put a cap on rents, what they're actually going to do is push landlords out of business. And a lot of the landlords are going to be mom and pops, right? And so when they are moving in this direction, you have to ask yourself, who's going to be really the big winner? It's probably going to be large corporations, right? This isn't going to be a major gift, I don't believe, for first-time buyers. But let's go on. The White House pointed out that it's time to reduce the first-time buyers through the Federal Housing Administration program. The effort, it said, helped reduce mortgage insurance premiums 0.3%, which saves them about $1,200 a year. And the Biden has proposed through a budget program, down payment assistance first-time buyers that the White House said will uplift first-generation home buyers. The program could help make homeowners a reality for families who do not have advantage of previous generational wealth building and homeownership. Passing legislation could begin to close a stubborn racial gap in homeownership. The White House also said it was looking to help renters. So this is what I mean when they say they're looking to help renters. When this moves into this direction, and you take, let's say you want to be one of those 500,000 Americans to buy a property. Maybe you do, right? But you have to understand, when something's for free, you're the product, right? You got to be really, really, really careful taking something for free. I think we all learned that with the stimulus era. When you take something for free, down the road you might regret it. And so when you start to see these policy decisions, what I believe to be true is that there's going to be a lot more of this down the road. That's what I believe. I think that when you move into an era where a lot of bills are forgiven, a lot of debts are being waived, a lot of former obligations are being put on pause, you have to ask yourself, why? Why is this happening? Is this just fueling a really, really, really big housing bubble? And then once this thing pops, they're going to bring forward a whole new set of rules and guidelines for landlords nationwide? It could be. It could be. We'll pay close attention to this. But let's not forget, you're looking at this URL, so this is legit. This is legitimate, whitehouse.gov. The White House Blueprint Renter's Bill of Rights. And there's a set of rules and guidelines. Here's a really interesting one, the right to organize. So tenants can essentially go on strike inside the property. So imagine this. Imagine you are a first-time buyer, and you're like, hey, I want to be one of those 500,000, Americans to get one of these properties. I'm going to buy a triplex. You're like, yes, I'm going to buy this triplex. I'm going to fix it up my hard-earned money. They're going to help me with the deposit, but I'm going to fix this place up. It's going to look really nice. But then the next year, your annual premium on insurance goes up. And they say, hey, look, you get something in the mail. You're one of the buyers that got this property. You can only increase your rent, by 2%. But insurance went up 20%. What do? Are you going to eat the other 18%? No, right? You're not going to do that. Well, if you try to push those costs on and it's outside of the terms of the lease, that could be a problem. Maybe they decide to organize. And the right to organize essentially go on strike. So you can have a situation where one tenant gets upset, tells the second tenant tells the third tenant, all three tenants stop paying rent, and now you have this mortgage that you can't pay for, and you can't collect rent, right? And the tenants are getting access to free legal counsel. Could be a problem, but it's something worth watching. But I think something really interesting is going to be this. So they say that, rents are unaffordable, and they are. But let's be fair, everything is unaffordable. Car insurance is unaffordable. I mean, food prices, everything is through the roof. Everything is so expensive. So when we look at what's going on right now in the labor market, employers have had enough and are starting to cut salary offers by as much as 47%, according to analysis of 20,000 job posting. So when you look at what happened in the labor market the last couple of years, during the Great Resignation, many people were getting massive pay bumps, 20%, 30%, 40% pay bumps, and they were taking on debt obligations based on this newfound income. But now wages are starting to soften, and really, really good jobs are slowly starting to fade away. But the big question I have is what happens when we walk into a world with generative AI and technology and robotics and all this. We're going to start walking into a deflationary period where it's going to be very, very, very cost effective for business owners to undercut their competitors. So as this begins to happen, a lot of small business owners that are supporting local employees are going to have to start cutting costs or going out of business. So what I believe is going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to begin seeing more layoffs. And as that begins to happen, people aren't going to be able to afford to spend $2,000 a month for rent, right? So what's going to happen? More landlord restrictions, more tenant protections. And so when we're walking into a period where they want to give away, you're talking about, I mean, look at this. It says, Bernard, the administration has helped 100,000 low-income households guarantee their rent at 30% of their income. The president's proposal, expanding rental assistance to more than 200,000 additional households, including first of its kind rental assistance guaranteed for low-income veterans and former youths. When you walk into a world where, 500,000 Americans are basically getting free homes, you have to ask yourself, what's going to happen next? What is going to happen next? My advice is don't take anything for free if you have that option. If you can take, if you take nothing for free and you have the option, you're going to be able to, have more wiggle room. You'll be able to choose what's going to be best for you in the long term versus being forced into a situation maybe you don't want, right? Maybe you do want this, maybe you do, right? But my suggestion, my advice, put yourself in the strongest position possible. Put yourself in a position where you have no consumer credit card debt. Put yourself in and if you do, right now there's still many credit card companies offering 0% APR, balance transfer options. So if you have 10, 20, 30 grand in credit card debt, if you have a good credit score, 730, 740, 750, in many cases you can transfer that high credit card balance to a 0% APR card for free. And you can pay off your debt at 0% interest. It's a hell of a lot easier, I promise you, paying off debt at 0% interest than paying it at 30% interest. So making smart decisions today, putting yourself in the right business or the right job, the right career to where that's going to flourish over the next couple of years is going to be really, really, really important. Now, I believe if you make the right decisions, your future is going to be absolutely amazing. But if you ignore the world that we're currently living in and pretend like we're going to go back to 2018, 2019, I have a feeling that you'll look back on this day and regret wishing you made different decisions. I believe, again, that we're in a great, great wealth transfer and great fortunes will be made. But pay close attention to what's going on in this world. Drop below, let's have a conversation about it. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, and a negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com, click the link in the description, schedule a free strategy session for Monday, and I'll catch you in the next video.